The World Economic Forum, the WEF, wants everyone jabbed every 6 months with what they call long-acting mRNA injections. That's the same mRNA that killed or caused long-term damage to millions of people during the COVID scam, the plandemic, whatever name you want to apply to what I personally regard as the greatest crime against humanity in history. Undeterred by any of that, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla was on his hind legs at Davos, fantasizing about a guided missile, his words not mine, delivering a warhead, his word not mine, that warhead carrying a dose of mRNA to fight cancer, his words not mine. This nonsense from Bourla, in the home of the billionaire philanthropaths, comes hot on the heels of the announcement last week, with the enthusiastic and excited support of President Donald Trump, of the Stargate Project. Larry Ellison, CEO of Oracle Corporation, was on hand to predict that artificial intelligence would shortly be able to detect cancer in its early stages and customize mRNA jabs to treat them within 48 hours. The troubling story, was covered by The Defender, a publication on the Children's Health Defence website. Covering the press conference in the White House giving the go-ahead for the $500 billion Stargate Project, journalist and PhD Brenda Balletti wrote, "The joint venture is between OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank and others to fund infrastructure for artificial intelligence. Part of that project involves artificial intelligence for early cancer detection and the rapid creation of mRNA cancer vaccines. The Trump administration developed the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines under Operation Warp Speed in 2020. After Trump left office, the Biden administration poured billions into mRNA vaccine development. Given Trump's embrace of the MAHA movement and his nomination of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to head up HHS, some predicted his second administration might take a more critical stance towards such vaccines. It's deeply concerning, though not entirely surprising, that the incoming Trump administration is continuing to pursue massive funding for mRNA technology, including speculative cancer therapies," author and natural health expert Sayer Ji told The Defender. This direction underscores a troubling bipartisan embrace of experimental biotechnologies despite the catastrophic fallout from the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines, which have been linked to unprecedented adverse events, disabilities and deaths, he added. "That is not a vaccine," Children's Health Defence CEO Mary Holland said, commenting on the concept. "That's a gene therapy. What we've seen from the COVID mRNA shots is that they've been disastrous for the immune system." Holland noted that the injections themselves have been linked to turbo cancers. Other experts also cast doubt on the idea. "That's not going to happen," oncologist Vinay Prasad wrote on his Substack. Prasad said mRNA vaccines clearly have unique and idiosyncratic toxicity. Because they were pushed so hard for COVID-19, there's a huge fraction of the public who does not want them. They do have unexplored long-term safety questions. I'm not going to be standing in line to get any. Xi told The Defender that Trump's support for the initiative had been particularly disheartening for the Make America Healthy Again movement. Trump ran on a platform of health sovereignty and freedom, yet this Stargate initiative feels like a significant departure from those values, Xi said. He added, "Instead of investing in regenerative, self-healing approaches to health and addressing the root causes of diseases like cancer, resources are being funneled into a technology that many view as inherently transhumanistic, violating core principles of health and human dignity." I ask in all seriousness, how much do we as a species, for God's sake, have to hear and see about mRNA before the penny drops that here in Britain, and clearly all over the West, we're governed by people who are doing the complete opposite of safeguarding our interests? On the contrary, I say state-sponsored scientists and politicians are colluding with powerful entities to undermine us in every way. Despite all that we know, all that has happened, all the demonstrable and undeniable harm, even now, we watch US Chief Government Scientist Anthony Fauci handed a presidential pardon backdated to 2014. We hear from Bill Gates himself about a 3-hour meeting with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago where enthusiastic chat about the potential of more jabs took place. And now, here in Britain, we hear Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty declaring the decision to make the COVID jabs mandatory was 100% political.
In England had two aspects. One, the policy which was actually put into place of vaccine as a condition of deployment for persons working in care homes. And then subsequently, there was a proposal to widen it out to the wider care and healthcare sector. Was that an issue which ultimately was for the chief medical officer? And it's obvious that you gave advice, and I'm not going to go into the details of the advice, or was it ultimately a political decision for ministers?
My view is it was 100% a political decision.
Let that sink in. That means that while one politician, scientist and tame celebrity after another said, follow the science, the truth of the matter was that the science was meekly following the politics. The science knew the truth of it all, and either loudly clapped along with the propaganda or kept its collective mouth shut and its head down while the damaging job was done. Scientists like Chris Whitty knew that the science, whatever he meant by his use of the word in that context, was keeping its mouth shut while politics made decisions and pushed policies, aggressively pushed policies affecting the lives and health of millions of people. We know the scientists and politicians knew in advance that the jabs were neither safe nor effective, and yet they lied and said they were. We know the scientists and politicians knew in advance that the jabs would not protect Granny, and yet they lied and said they would. We know the politicians overruled the scientists and rolled out the Frankenstein jabs anyway, but they lied and said they were following the science. We know it was known to the scientists that the mRNA jabs posed a very specific threat to the lives of young boys, being myocarditis, but they lied and said it was safe for children. We know it was known to the scientists that on account of the use of lipid nanoparticles, the contents of the jabs would go everywhere in the body, to the brain, into the unborn children of pregnant women, into the reproductive organs of women and men, but that they rolled them out anyway. We know that whatever COVID was or wasn't, that there were no excess deaths until after the rollout of the jabs. I struggle to take in the enormity of the fact we know all this now and still nothing happens in the way of consequences for the guilty. On the contrary, the band plays on, and now we have to listen to Davos man demanding 2 jabs of mRNA every year for every one of us, and multi-billion-dollar plans endorsed by the new President of the United States for many, many more of those products. Where is RFK Jr. in all of this? Robert Kennedy Jr., who has questioned the safety of jabs for years. What does this mean for the Make America Healthy Again campaign, a flagship slogan of President Trump's election campaign? To put it in the mildest terms possible, I say there are common sense, legitimate reasons for thinking our health as an entire species was in a safer place before the likes of Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates and Chris Whitty came along, and that their contributions, regardless of their real motivations, have done more harm than good. I say again that there are credible statistics that say the mRNA jabs killed or caused long-term harm to tens of millions of people. For the gazillionth time, mRNA is experimental gene therapy. The COVID jabs were not tested to see if they would prevent infection. They didn't work. They caused as yet unknown precisely but massive harm. Our governments and authority figures lied to our faces and were only stopped from mandating them for every one of us because a tiny band of individuals risked or lost all to oppose the very idea. That all of this is true, confirmed even by some of those at the heart of the conspiracy to mass jab, is simply extraordinary to me. Getting on for 5 years after the launch of what I believe was a hoax pandemic, the writing is on the wall. The thing they called COVID was a tool, and it got the job done. The job in question was twofold: to transfer as much wealth as possible from the many to the very, very few, and to impose draconian controls on the lives of billions of people for the exclusive benefit of those determined we should be subject to one world government. It's simple stuff, obvious stuff. We can be sure of this much. The future holds in store a lot more jabs of mRNA for those dumb enough to accept them, and total control for the one world government, if we let them.